Hi, today we'll be looking into a very important document, that is Registered Medical Practitioners Professional Conduct Regulations of 2022 by National Medical Commission. Okay, and it's a draft as of now, and we'll be looking into the entire points of these draft in brief. Okay, so before I go ahead and we dissect this document, let me show you the authentication of this document and where you can find this document for your reference. Okay, so let's go to Google and I'll just type NMC, that is National Medical Commission, and you can see the first website .org.in, WITS and government website here. Right, so you can see the what's new public notification is here, and you can just click on the second one. Once you click on the second one, you'll get the entire document of which we are today discussing. Okay, this was the document. It's in the public domain as of now, and yeah, so it has around 104 pages. So we'll be looking into each component of this entire document and giving a brief about this entire document. Okay, so this is what you're gonna do, and yes, let's get to it. Okay, hi, I'm Dr. Sajjan Madapadi, digital healthcare expert, and I'm on a mission to empower 1 million healthcare professionals to digitalize their practice, grow their practice, and scale to the next level. Okay, and I'm the founder of Digital Healthcare Hub. With that, let's look into today's document. Okay, so these are the points under which we'll be discussing. We have taken the printout of this document. So the disclaimer is that it's my interpretation and my view of the document, and have selected some of the highlights points which I felt essential for this. So for the entire document and for the entire clarity of the concept, please go to the website and download the link, and also put the link in the description below, and go to the entire document for the entire clarity. Okay, great. So with that, let's get into the topics. So the first topic what we're looking into is professional conduct of RMPs, that is Registered Medical Practitioners. Okay, so we have around 12 points under which it will be discussed. Okay, so the first point is duties and responsibilities of registered medical practitioners. Right, what does it say? First of all, this entire document is a draft, right, and this will be published within next month on complete finalization, right, and it is understood that all the healthcare professionals would have gone through this document and understood and agreed for the conditions and regulations abide by this, and also abide by these rules and regulations. Okay, so you should know that it is being put up that you have to read this and understand this. Okay, and the second point is prefix, suffix, and modern medicine. What are the things what the document says? First thing is suffix. So you should use only the NMC recognized accredited medical degrees and diplomas after your name, and cannot use any other degrees which is not recognized by National Medical Commission. Okay, that's first point. Second, not claims to be a clinical specialist unless he or she has NMC recognized training and qualifications. Right, without that, without any other fellowships, you cannot claim as that particular clinical specialist. Right. Third one is should not employ any healthcare professionals who is not registered to the practice of modern medicine. Okay, so you need to have the person who has already done the training under the NMC. Okay, that's the point. Okay, so let's look at the third point. Very simple, right? Continuing professional development programs, right? That is the CMEs or CPDs, what we call it as. So at least every healthcare professional, the doctors should have 30 hours every 5 years. You should have the continuing professional development programs done, and if at all, if you're moving to any other state for practicing or for the transfer, you need to apply for the license for practice in that state. Okay, so that's what the third point says. And fourth, that is right to remuneration of an RMP, registered medical practice. That is one. So you have the right to ask for a consultation fee or the cost of the procedure, and also you need to display it before, or you should also inform to the patient before you treat the patient. Right, that's one. And you can also refuse okay, refuse to continue the treatment of patients if the fee are not paid, right? You can refuse to treat the patient, but it does not apply for the government doctors in service or in emergency condition, right? In emergency situations, you have to abide by the rule and give complete treatment to the patient. Okay, that's what it says on the right to remuneration of registered medical practitioners. And the fifth point is prohibiting solicitation of soliciting the patients. That is what is meant by solicitation, because a lot of things are there, right? So it means to request, right? So solicitation is to act of requesting. So you cannot request patients to come to your clinic and come to your hospitals, right? So it is prohibited. For whom to do it, right? For the groups of, if you are practicing as a group of RMPs, registered medical practitioners, institution cannot solicit, and organizations, any private organizations or government organization, hospitals, nursing homes, corporate hospital establishments owned, controlled or maintained by them. Okay, right? So all these people or anyone as of now, what you see is cannot request patient to come to their centers. Okay, right? So that's what it says. And sixth is prescribing generic medicines, right? So it says that all of us have to prescribe generic names of the drugs when you're prescribing the generic medicines, right? And prohibiting of splitting and commissions. What does it say? So you cannot split or give commissions for the diagnostic centers, scanning, medical, surgical or any other treatments, and also for referring, recommending or procurement of a registered medical practice also you cannot do any splitting of fee or commissions. And registered medical practitioners shall not use online forums or agents for procuring patients. Okay, so all this should not be done. Okay, next is prohibition of endorsement of the product or a person. Itself explaining, you should not endorse any product, medical product or any of the products or any person for that matter. Okay, right. Ninth is restriction on advertisement, right? Very important. So permission to make a formal announcement in any media. So you have a permission to do a formal announcement in what circumstances? On starting of practices, on changing the type of practice, on changing address, on temporary absence of the duty, on resumption of practice, on succeeding to another practices, and public declaration of charges, right? So all this can be put as a formal announcement, right? And you're also allowed to do public education through media without soliciting patients. Okay, this is very important. Right. And the 10th point is responsibility of a registered medical practitioners regarding the sales of drugs. So what can be done in terms of sales of drug, right? You cannot run, right? Doctors cannot run an open shop to sell medicine to everyone else, right? But what you can do is you are allowed to sell medication to your own patients. Okay, that can be done. And okay, only thing, you cannot have a general medical shop so that everyone can come and buy it. Only thing, you can sell the medications for your prescribed patients. Okay, right. So no, and also you cannot dispense or prescribe secret remedies or agents which no one knows, right? So that cannot be done. Great, that sounds good. And responsibility of RMP regarding the medical records. In terms of medical records, what does it say? A very important thing is there in this, which we are working on, right? So outpatients or inpatients for 3 years from the date of the last contact. So you need to maintain the records of both the outpatient and inpatient for at least 3 years of duration of time. Okay, and if any patients or authorized attendees or the legal authorities ask for the documentation, you need to queue those documentation within 5 working days. Right? And a very important step and a new thing which has come up in this documentation is, in this regulation, is within the next 3 years, from the date of the publication of this regulation, all the registered medical practitioners shall fully digitalize records. Right? So you need to fully digitalize your records. So basically, if the first point says that you need to maintain the patient records for at least 3 years, that means from now, from now onwards, from once this final documentation is published, from then onwards, all your patients' records has to be digitalized. Okay, at least by third year should be digitalized, right? That's what's it. But now even the National Medical Commission is also moving and taking a strong step towards digitalizing healthcare practices. Okay, great. So we are on track. Practicing euthanasia shall continue unethical conduct, which we already know, right? Okay. So the final point is informed consent. So they are told you have to take informed consent of the patients whenever, whichever circumstance is required, which we have already been doing. Okay. So these are the 12 points under which the professional conduct of RMPs has been described, and these are the something key highlights of the document in this chapter. Okay, so now let's move to the next topic, that is duties of registered medical practitioners towards their patients. Okay, what it says, right? Again, we have 8 points in this. The first is keeping appointments. You need to take appointments and also be on time for the appointments. It's a general thing. So incapacity, if at all, if you're sick and not able to perform your duties and there is some inability which is happening, so you need to, if you are not capable of doing it, refrain from that for the time period until you are okay to continue service, right? That's what it says. And the third point is patient care, right? In the patient care we have something interesting. Okay, so you're free to choose who he will serve, we will serve, except in case of life-threatening emergency. In life-threatening emergencies, everyone has to give a proper care, right? But if not, you're free to choose whom to treat, like take as a patient or not take as a patient, right? And second thing is, in case of abusive, unruly and violent patients or relatives, good point, which come across for you. So the registered medical practitioner can document and report the behavior and refuse to treat the patient, and such patients should be referred to the further treatment elsewhere. Okay, it has to be referred, and you can also refuse upfront. Okay, so that's part of the patient care. And then you have confidentiality has to be maintained of the patients and all the content, even after death of the patient. Also, truth telling, you need to tell straight on what's happening of the medical condition, neither exaggerate or put it down. Next is referral. So you need to refer to the next doctor who is appropriate to treat this treatment as required by your professional judgment. Okay, and the signature has to be properly legibly made in all the documentation with the registered medical ID which we have. Okay, and then consultation by telemedicine also can be done, and this will be discussed in more detail in the next further documents. Okay, so these are the duties of registered medical practitioners towards their patient. Now let's look into the responsibility of a registered medical practitioner to each other. What does it say? Okay, there are 3 points. One, professional integrity, that is, you should not tell anything wrong about the other person, right? So no derogatory statements or remarks to be done. RMP as registered medical practitioner as a locum, that is, if at all a registered medical practitioner is going for a leave or something, so we need to, the other registered medical practitioner had to attend his patients during his temporary absence for his practice. Professional courtesy requires that acceptance of such appointment has to be done. Along with the existing duties, the registered medical practitioner has to take the work of the other registered medical practitioner on his absence, right? And at most professional courtesy has to be shown in that area, right? And reporting and inspection, right? And when a higher authority is reporting and inspecting an registered medical practitioner on the issues, he should make sure that the higher medical authority avoid making any derogatory remarks regarding the diagnosis or treatment plan adopted by the registered medical practitioner in front of the patient. Okay, so these are the points what has to be discussed for responsibility of registered medical practice to each other. Okay, And then now we'll be looking into duties of registered medical practitioners towards the public and allied health professionals. Okay, so we have 4 points, right? The first one is public education and awareness, right? So in the public health and awareness, what happens? First, you need to disseminate scientific advice on public health issues in the public interest without self-promotion. You can do, okay, and you have notified the notifiable disease, which you already know. Next one is involved in public education awareness activities without involving in the advertisement. Can be done. Okay, that's about public education and awareness. And then we have respect the practice of different paramedical services. We have to keep the respect for their service and the teamwork, and must not receive, this is very important in case of public and towards professionals, receive any gifts, travel facilities, or hospitality, cash or monetary grants, consultancy fees, honorarium, access to entertainment, recreation from pharmaceutical companies, commercial health establishments, medical device companies, or corporate hospitals. Very important to note, and it's been there, but again reinforcing that area. Okay, right. And then we have a final point, that is not to be involved in any third party educational activities like CPD, continuous professional development, seminar, workshops, symposium, conference, which involves, right, should not involve in third party educational activities of all these things, which involves direct or indirect sponsorships from pharmaceutical companies or the allied health sectors. Right, so this has to be taken care of, it not to take any sponsorships from these pharmaceutical companies to do these educational activities. Okay, so this is the duties of RMPs towards the public and allied health professionals. Now next point is professional misconduct. Very simple, we'll not go too deep into it. Professional misconduct, basically you need to follow all the regulations which we just discussed in brief, right? And any violation of these regulations or other applicable acts related to medical practices which are in force shall constitute professional misconduct, right? And so procedure for, so if at all someone does professional misconduct, how do you report it, right? How do you report it? Basically the aggrieved person will file the complaint to the state medical council through the website, portal, or offline orderly within 2 years of the cause of action. So in next 2 years, from date of today to next 2 years, a person can raise a complaint. So that means at least for 3 years you need to keep your medical records. That's what we know, it has been said here, right? So that you cover yourself if at all any complaint happens within the next 2 years of that patient's procedure. Okay, right. So now we'll get into the next. So this is where it becomes very interesting. Okay, there are 2 points which becomes very highlighted in this, and very strong guidelines has been given. Okay, so so what we discussed till now was into these areas, right? We looked into professional conduct of RMPs. First was discrimination, then we looked into duties of registered medical practitioners towards patient, and third one, we looked into the responsibility of registered medical practitioners towards each other, and then we looked into what is the duties of registered medical practitioner towards a public and allied health, right, professionals, and then we looked into the professional misconduct. So this is the main part of the entire document which we had, and after this entire structure what has been discussed, there are some guidelines which they have given. Okay, so let's go into get into these guidelines. I'll just show you what are the topics which are covered in these guidelines, but in of which 2 will go in little more detail. Okay, right, which is very interesting and important and key for this discussion. Okay, so let's look into the guidelines. The first one is generic medicine and prescription guidelines has been given in this one in the documentation. You can just look at the documentation. Second guidelines is template to use for writing prescription rationale. What is the rational template for the prescription is also been printed and given. NMC Code of Medical Ethics has been mentioned in this guidelines, and guidelines on penalties, if at all if you don't follow the above rules, how the penalties is staged is also mentioned in that. Informed consent in clinical practices, how entire consent has to be taken is mentioned. And the important guideline is the guideline 6, which says conduct of registered medical practitioners on social media. This was the highlight of the entire process, right? So let's look into that. So they have 11 points under which they have added this, right? So let's do the first one. So first one, what it says, registered medical practitioners can provide information announcement on social medias. Yes, they can, but however, the information should be factual and can be verified. They can provide, but it has to be factual and should be able to be verified. Third, avoid discussing the treatment of patient on public social media. Okay. Avoid prescribing medicines to patients on public social media platforms. Not post patient photographies or scan or PET CT scan on social media, because once you post those images on social media, it becomes a property of the social media. Right? And the sixth point is, should not directly or indirectly indulge in the practice of purchasing likes and followers, paying money for so that the search algorithm lead to their name being listed on the top with the SEO, search engine optimization should not be done. Registering on software programs, apps that charges fee for higher rating, like we have other aggregator, healthcare aggregator apps which you already know of, right? Should not be on those apps. That's what it says in this documentation. And the next one is registering on software programs that charges fee for soliciting patients. Again, you cannot get patients from these platforms too, and that becomes unethical, and it is not as per the guidelines. Okay, so make sure you follow these instructions there. Okay, so that's what it says in the point 6. And we have point 7, that is, should not request or share patient testimonials or recommendation or endorsements or reviews in social media. So we had many websites which showed a lot of reviews. In YouTube, you put a lot of reviews of the patients telling about your care, but that should not be done now. Okay, and there's one more thing, like which was very popular, that is, should refrain from sharing images of healed, cured patient or surgery procedure videos or images displaying impressive results under any circumstances also has been avoided, right? So you should not do this, right? Because that's where they are telling, right? But there are a lot of videos, and many of the platforms, commercial platforms, also following this type of methodology of telling how the impressive surgeries and the this one is. But again, they have put a restriction on that now. And RMP is allowed to share educative material for the information of the general public can be done through social media. Only thing is, the communication should be limited to the expertise of the RMP. So if the registered medical practitioner is a cardiologist, he should talk about the cardiology and not about neurology, right? That's what it means. Okay, right. And then we have 10th point, that is, registered medical practitioners website should also follow the same guidelines as above. So no SEO, no marketing, paid marketing, no connecting with other healthcare platforms, no testimonials, no before after treatment things should be put on these websites. Okay, very important. And the next, soliciting of patients directly or indirectly through social media is unethical, is what has been mentioned in this document. So this is important thing to be noted, because something which is relevant to the current trends, what's happening everywhere. Okay, right. So that's about social media. Then we have 7th guidelines, that is form of certificate, recommendation for leave or extension or communication of leave or for fitness. How to write these forms is also been given as the template. and then we have format for medical record is also given. A list of certificate reports notifications issued by doctors for the purpose of various acts and administrative legislation is also been listed here, right? And the continuous professional development guidelines, it's a huge chapter there, and how this to be done, and very lot of documentation is present in this particular CPD guidelines. Please go through it in detail if at all, if it is very much relevant for you. And the very much important part which I would like to highlight in this area is the guidelines for practice of telemedicine in India has been properly structured in this time in document. Okay, but it has an extensive framework of guidelines in this, but I'll be giving you a brief overview of it, and in later upcoming videos we'll go in depth to give the complete guidelines on how the telemedicine practice, the digital healthcare practice in India can be done for the medical doctors. Okay, that will be discussed later, but in this I'll give an overview on what you can do basically, right? So what are the guidelines for telemedicine? Entitled to practice telemedicine. Yes, a registered medical practitioner is eligible to provide telemedicine consultation to patients from any part of the India. Okay, right. So that's the first point. Second is, what are the tools of telemedicine? You can use any tool of telemedicine, and also they give an example, and it was surprising to see some of the names of the platforms which they have included in it. Okay, let's go through it. So they are told telephone, yes, video devices connected to LAN, WAN, internet, mobiles or landline phones can be used for the teleconsultation. Chat platforms like WhatsApp, Facebook Messenger, etc. can be used for telemedicine tool. Mobile apps or internet-based digital platform for telemedicine can be used, and data transfer systems like Skype, email, fax also can be used as a telemedicine tool. Is been given exactly in this way in the documentation. Okay, it's not anything of mine. Okay, right? So that surprisingly it's present. So it is there in that way. So coming to the next is mode of communication. So what the mode of communication? Basically video, audio and text based, right? In video we already looked into the telemedicine facility, apps, videos or chat platforms, Skype, FaceTime, everything can be used. Audio is phone and VoIP and other apps can be used. And text based, there are three things, right? So telemedicine chat based application, like a specialized telemedicine smartphone apps, websites or internet based systems can be used. General messenger text chat application, WhatsApp, Google Hangout, Facebook messengers can be used for the telemedicine purpose. Asynchronous, that is not on time, like you send once and then patient replies later, that is email and fax also can be used, right? So this is what has been given in this context. Okay, so next is guidelines for the RMPs, registered medical practitioners, and telemedicine platforms enabling telemedicine. What they have told to these platforms, the NMC has told to the telemedicine platforms, the do's and don'ts. Okay, very important. First, not participate in telemedicine platform. Like doctors should not participate in telemedicine platform that provide rating by patients, should not be there in those platforms. If they provide reviews, if the advertisements happens on those platforms, promotion of RMPs by any means happens in this platform, manipulation of algorithm, that is search engine, etc. happens on this telemedicine platform, and advertising of RMPs is not allowed by anybody under any pretext, is been given properly, and you should not be on those platforms which are doing this activities, and should be away from these telemedicine platforms. Okay, that's what the first regulation. And second is technology platform based on artificial intelligence or machine learning. Okay, what does it say? Is not allowed to counsel the patient or prescribe any drugs to a patient by itself, right, through the technology. But what can be done, right? The new technology such as artificial intelligence, Internet of Things, advanced data science based decision support system, etc. Could assist and support the RMP on patient evaluation, diagnosis or management. We can support, but the final prescription or counseling has to be directly delivered by the registered medical practitioner, is what has been said in this document. Okay. And finally, very important thing for all the telemedicine platforms, what they have very specifically said is specific technology platform is found, if any platform is found to violate these guidelines or any applicable existing law applicable to them, the ERMP, that is Ethical Medical Registered Board, I suppose, so National Medical Commission, may designate the technology platform as blacklisted, and no RMP may then use the platform to provide the telemedicine services, right? So very strongly they have put the message out that the telemedicine platforms has to abide by these rules. Okay, so these are the brief key highlights of what we discussed today, and this is the all the things what is present in the not all, like brief information of what's present in the entire documentation. Okay, right. So now the question is, okay, so first of all, just to show you, this is the document, and we have gone through the document. Of course, with a short time I was able to put up the key highlights of what I felt was very informative for to be put to the public domain for you to understand in a speedy way. Okay, and that's what is it, right? Now question is, with all these regulations, new regulations coming up, now how do we advance with digital healthcare, and how do we implement this digital healthcare? And also the NMC has given a very strict guidelines that we have to digitalize healthcare practice. All the healthcare documentation has to be documented online, maintain patient documentation in next 3 years after this documentation. So I've been working in the digital healthcare space for a quite long time, and so we have built a digital healthcare hub, right? And we have a webinar coming up that's called as Digital Healthcare Blueprint, where we will give you, and you can understand and learn the 3 secrets to growing your healthcare practice, right? And if you feel that your practice can be grown, right, yes, it can be. And with the current digital age and how the entire process has been changed and digitalizing, so we need to move towards digitalization, and that's the core of the entire process what we are trying to do, right? Even the government of India is moving to the entire thing. So with that, so we have a lot of technologies currently existing in the market, and only thing is we need to understand what these are capacities are, and how that can integrate into our practices and grow our practices, scale our practices to the next level, with abiding with all the regulations here and doing ethical practices, right? So join our webinar, Digital Healthcare Blueprint, to understand the digital healthcare practice and how can you grow and scale your digital healthcare practice with the 3 secrets what we're going to discuss, right? For that, you can just click on the link in the description below in the YouTube here today, or else you can just visit our website digitalhealthcarehub.com, and once you do that, you'll get the form to enter your details, enter the form details, and you'll get the webinar registration, like webinar link when it's going to be launched soon. Okay, so with that, thank you so much for being here today and going through the entire document today, right? And we discussed very briefly into all the topics what we discussed today, right? And I hope it has added value for you, and you got some better insights of what we discussed, right? So these are the topics what we discussed, just to show you in summary of the entire process, right? And so if you like this video, and if you like these in-depth content what we have been providing, just subscribe to the channel, follow us, so that let's grow and learn together and digitalize the entire healthcare practice, so that even the patients and the customers get the best benefit of the digitalization what's happening currently, right? With that, thank you so much. See you. Have a great time. Bye.